Hello, and in today's video we're going to take a quick look at the Shab-al-Hiri Roach by Jason Morningstar. It's a 72-page softback book, and as it says here on the back cover, a dark comedy of manners lampooning academia and asking players to answer a difficult question. Are you willing to swallow a soul-eating telepathic insect bent on destroying human civilization? So basically this is a sort of dark comedic gallows humour game where everyone is jockeying for position, and the sort of purpose of the game in theory is to win it by having the most authority at the end of the game. However, there is a little caveat. If you are possessed by the Assyrian Shab-al-Hiri Roach, then you can't actually win the game because you're a slave to the darkness. So yeah, at some stage you're going to have to purge yourself of the roach and become a free person. Now, a lot of the game is actually run by these cards here. So there's actually two types of cards. There's a card with a roach symbol on, so Kusa Balotag, my dog chain is upon you, and you will now crawl, and this is how you get infected by the roach. It's also how you purge yourself of the roach. If you are currently, a slave to the roach, when you draw a card with this sort of style of card with the roach symbol, then you can purge yourself of the roach by discarding what's known as an enthusiasm. But you've only got two of those, so you can only do that twice. So if you get possessed 3 times in a game, then you're a bit stuck. Now, until you get possessed by the roach, you can play what's known as an opportunity. Now, sometimes these are good, sometimes they're bad. If you're a slave to the roach, then instead you have to obey the command of the roach. So obey this person and bring it love. So even if it's your enemy, you've got to be friends with it. However, the other one is, you must gamble to reduce another player's reputation rather than increase your own. So yeah, sometimes these opportunities are a real disaster, and it does talk about that in the rulebook. So as I say, it's definitely a game you want to play with like-minded individuals because it can be quite dark. And yeah, as it says, I think it says, don't mistake that the aim of the game is to win. It's really about the journey, because winning is like winning at a mustard gas attack. Yes, you're the one left standing, but there's loads of corpses around. So yeah, that should give you an idea of how this game sort of plays out. Now, it does lay out fairly quickly the game. So in character generation, you pick a background. Who are you? Why did you end up at what's known as Pemberton College? What's your standing? Are you a lowly miner or a professor? What's your expertise? So what's your specialist subject? And what's your enthusiasm? So you get 2 of those. So you can be a creative debauchery or a cruel deception person. And as I say, you can burn those to get rid of the roach to try and win the game. It then talks about how to bring those into play. You also have reputation, which is how you're going to win the game. And I think you start off with 3 in the base rules. And obviously, as I said, the person at the end of the game with the most reputation ends up winning. So, actual sequence of play. There's 6 events, if I remember, in this base set. And each player gets a scene in each event, and you pretty much make up what it is. So it does give you an outline at what's at each event and who's there. It talks about what to do with your cards, what to do if you're cursed or free. It then has a load of examples and stuff, a bit tricksy to show. It then does talk about scenes, what happens in the individual scenes. Then the bit that's important is resolving conflict. So you can pretty much define who's at each scene, what's at stake, what's going on. But to actually work out who wins the scene and therefore gets the wager of reputation points, is you're going to roll some dice. So depending on what it's about, so if it's academic status, let's give you a closer look at that, then you're going to roll a d4 to a d10. If it's about anything else, you're going to roll, again, a d4 to a d10, but it's switched. So a professor, when it comes to status, will roll a d10, but when it comes to, digging a trench, they will roll a d4. However, someone who's infested by the roach will get to roll a d12, and some of the cards actually give you bonus dice or bonuses to your dice. So someone who's not roach infested might actually get to roll a d12. You get extra dice depending on whether it taps into your expertise or your enthusiasm. So it's quite fun. Now, if you're not included in a scene, you can sort of insert your character. However, you're only allowed to bid 1 authority if you do that. So, talks about the roach here and how to get rid of it. There's the cards, obviously, and an example of play. Then it actually outlines the opportunities. So the first one is a letter of reprimand, and you're going to lose a reputation point. So this allows you to make your own cards effectively if you haven't bought the cards that come with the rulebook. Now the rulebook itself is pretty decent, 72 pages approximately. I think it's a couple more with images. But the cards themselves, I must admit, they were very disappointing. They're just like plain cards. You could easily make these yourselves, I think, to a better standard. But it was quite nice to get the little sort of marker for the roach. And yeah, I think it's a great little game. It's obviously sort of a one-shot. You could maybe do 2 events a session to take place over 3 sessions, but really I think it's a one and done sort of game. But obviously each time you play it can be different circumstances. Now there are a couple of expansions for this. If I remember correctly, it's either World War II, the Korean War, or Vietnam War. I can't remember which, and I think there is another scenario in that book as well. And I think it's to do with UFOs. I can't remember. I do have a copy of the book, but I don't have it to hand, and I haven't read it since getting it many years ago. And yeah, the base game itself is plenty good enough. And I love it so much, I've actually working on my own hack of it at the moment, which I'm hoping to get some playtesting out of very soon. But this is really worth a visit. So get yourself over to Bully Pulpit and check them out and have a look. It's great fun, very dark, and in the days of X cards, you might want one because you could maybe push some people's buttons with it, where you do all sorts of unspeakable things to their player characters or to other player characters that people may or may not like. So approach this with, firmly your tongue in your cheek, and think dark, gothic, sort of HPL horror in a university where people who have far too much of an opinion of themselves are trying to get themselves to the top, and they don't care who they trample on the way to there. And as I say, that the destination, winning the game, isn't really what this is about. It's the fun and the laughs whilst you go from point A to point Z. Anyway, that will do for a quick look at this wonderful little game. So until the next video, happy gaming.